What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another video, and today I'm going to be talking about the box office for this weekend, and it was a big one with Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible, or aka Mission Stitch, coming in and doing absolutely record-shattering numbers at the box office, with Lilo and Stitch doing a 3-day weekend of 145 million and a 4-day weekend, right, because we have a Memorial Day, that's the 4-day, of 183 million, which breaks the record Top Gun Maverick held as the biggest Memorial Day weekend opener of all time with 160, so this destroyed that. And the overall number of Memorial Day box office was roughly $322 million, and that beats the previous record as the biggest Memorial Day weekend of all time. It beat 2013 when all combined films grossed $314 million, I believe, and this did 322, so it ended up beating it, which is insane that it can beat a record like that. That's unbelievable. But Lilo and Stitch is definitely, there's a lot to talk about with Lilo and Stitch. Not only did it open to $183 million here in the US, but worldwide it opened to $341.7 million, which is, I believe, the biggest of the year, beating out Minecraft's international debut, which is just bonkers. I mean, that's insane. 341 million is ridiculous. That's a lot of money. And it is already well on its way to $1 billion. I mean, at this point, I mean, it's going to get to $1 billion. There's no other really family films coming into the marketplace until How to Train Your Dragon. And then really films like Lilo and Stitch is not going to really feel that as much as it might like Elio, like the Pixar Elio when it comes out on June 20th, but that's still, How to Train Your Dragon still 3 weeks off, and Elio's 4 weeks off. This thing has like a whole, almost a month by itself with no other films that are really going to hurt it and take away its audience, so it is definitely on its way to $1 billion. But the other film this weekend that came out, Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, check out our review for both Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible. Me and my dad went and saw it, reviewed it. We loved Mission Impossible 8. We thought it was a good, solid send-off film. And Lilo and Stitch we were more meh about. But again, Mission Impossible is much more made for us, right, demographic-wise, for sure. So, but I think that Mission Impossible, when you talk about Mission Impossible, at first when you look at it, it's like, okay, that's a really good opening, because it opened to, I believe, $64 million on the 3-day, and then on the 4-day it did like 77, which is the biggest in the franchise, right? It beat 2018's Mission Impossible Fallout, which opened to 61 million. So it broke the record for the biggest Mission Impossible opening of all time for the franchise, which is great when at first you hear, oh yeah, that's a great opening weekend, except for its budget. Its budget is rumored to be over $400 million, which would make it one of the, if not the most expensive film ever made. And it definitely needs to hit $1 billion just to break even. I think it was like the exact number was like 900 to 950 million, but basically needs to make $1 billion to break even. That's not happening. No Mission Impossible's ever made $1 billion. None have ever even made 800. Fallout was the record with 791, but that's it. That's all that's, and I don't think this is going to do 800 million like Fallout. It did open higher than Fallout, but I think the reviews are not as good as they were for Fallout, so I think it's not going to have as good legs as Fallout did. So it's not going to make as much. I think this probably ends up in like the $600 million range, like 600 to 650. You know, maybe gets over 650. I think that would be a total win because, you know, you cut your losses because they're not making money on this movie. But it is doing very well box office wise without even considering the budget. So those are the two films that came out this weekend. Let's head over to the top 10 right here. Obviously, Lilo and Stitch, number one with $145.5 million. That $33,000 per screen average is great. It's excellent. It was in a lot of theaters, 4,410. That's a lot of theaters. And number two, we had Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning with $64 million. Again, a great opening for Mission Impossible, a record-breaking opening for Mission Impossible. Not great for its budget. Number three, we have Final Destination Bloodlines with $24 million. Now, I believe that $24 million is actually the 3-day, or the 4-day, I believe. So that is not right. That, I believe, is $19 million. or roughly 20 million on the 3-day for the Final Destination Bloodlines, which is a pretty good hold considering the fact that it had to compete with Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible on the same weekend. So that's, the fact that it had to compete with that, I'm surprised it didn't drop even further. But at number 4, we have Sinners with, I believe it was about 9 million on its 3-day weekend, down roughly like 40%, which again is fine, especially considering the competition. It's a great hold. At number 5, we have Thunderbolts with 9.1 million, down 45%. That film's up to $171 million on its domestic run. Another new one, The Last Rodeo by Angel Studios, made 5.2 million, so it did okay. Not bad, it's not great, kind of in the middle. Number 7, we have Friendship with $4.5 million. That has officially hit wide release, and it has now made 6.6 million on its entire domestic run. Number 8, we have a Minecraft movie which fell 53% with $2.8 million. That film continues to make money. It lost a lot of theaters this weekend, over 1,000 of them, so it's definitely winding down. But it's up to $421 million domestically, and it's at about $930 million worldwide. So it'll get to 950 million worldwide. I don't think it's going to be able to get to $1 billion, unfortunately. It's going to get so close, but it's not going to be able to get there. Number 9, we have The Accountant 2 with about 2 million, down 59%. That film's up to 62 million on its domestic run. This is not good. Number 10, Hurry Up Tomorrow, which released last week in its second weekend. It wasn't even able to make $1 million. It made 715,000. It fell 78%, which is horrible. That is a really bad drop, and the reviews don't help. It's not going to have good legs. This film is basically DOA, dead on arrival. It's done. This film's completely done. It's done all that it can do. It's up to 4.7 million. I don't even know if it's going to get to 5 million at this point. Like, it's like 200 million away, and I'm still not sure if it's going to get there. Like, it's going to be close. Well, that is it for the top 10. So let's go ahead and talk about next weekend with Karate Kid Legends coming out. And this is a film that's really hard to peg, I think. Because on one hand, you have the Karate Kid franchise is nostalgic for a lot of people. The Cobra Kai, it's in the 80s, the Cobra Kai series. The show was very popular and very successful and very well received. And so that's great, but the early buzz and the early reviews for this film have not been very good, to say the least. So I am worried about this film, especially with its legs. It's not going to have good legs if it doesn't have good reviews. However, there was a Karate Kid movie that they made back in 2012, I believe, that opened to roughly like 45. I think it may have gotten to 50. So there's also that in mind. So it's kind of hard to nail this one. I'm going to be a little more optimistic, and I'm going to say 32.3 million on its opening weekend, but I'm going to take it on the down, where basically I can take films on the down or the up, which basically is like if I say 33 million on the up, that basically means that I think it's going to do 33 million, but there's a lot of potential it could go higher. With this one, I think it could do 32.3, but I think there's a lot of potential it could go lower, a lot lower, unfortunately. But with the holdovers from Lilo and Stitch and Mission Impossible: The Final Reckoning, it's going to be a great weekend still. Even if Karate Kid bombs, the holdovers will get us through there. And so, yeah, if you guys like this video, make sure you give it a like, subscribe to the channel if you're new, and comment down below your thoughts on Lilo and Stitch's opening and Mission Impossible's opening and the biggest Memorial Day weekend ever. And go ahead and drop the comment down below on how high you think Karate Kid Legends opening weekend is going to be, and I will see you guys next time.